Thanks for coming. My name is Morana. I'm a member of the OWASP London chapter, also the project leader of the CISO guide, which is newly published book. System 4, if you're interested, if you are successful with this talk, that I hope to, you can purchase the book as well, besides or get it for free from the sites that we show the link also. So today we're going to talk about actually two projects, the OWASP CISO guide and the OWASP CISO survey, for which Tobias is actually the project leader. So it is like a talk divided in, let's say, three parts. So the first part, I will introduce the CISO guide, the goals of the guide, why we actually developed this guide, give you some background, the plan that we actually follow for the development of the project. Then Tobias will introduce himself and introduce the CISO survey, which is basically a parallel project that was actually done almost like in sync. And then at the end, I will wrap up with more information about some situational awareness about you being a CISO. By the way, how many of you are a security manager in this room? Okay, so it's a fair amount. So this is actually directed towards your role and responsibility. So I hope that is going to be a good value for you. So little presentation short. We don't have the About Me page. You'll find the About Me page in the PDF file. But I'm also a manager in risk and controls for Citigroup, but I'm not talking here on behalf of Citigroup. Just wanted to be sure. But anyway, I have 15 years experience in application security, working as a consultant. I work for NASA as well. So that's my background. Tobias, would you like to introduce yourself?
As I said, my name is Tobias. I'm running Thames Stanley, which is a CISO advisory. So I kind of see more different CISOs, but then maybe not as in-depth as Marco in his role. So it was quite nice to bring these things together for the CISO guide, but you will see in the survey.
Thank you, Tobias. So let's start with the how we started. So the guide started actually 2011, right in the drafts. So OWASP has a mission, and the OWASP mission is to make application security visible to the application stakeholders so they can make informed risk decisions. So the question is, who are these application stakeholders, right? So we have information security managers. We have software developers. We have penetration testers, right? So now the logical question is, how successful OWASP has been to reach out specific functions or application security stakeholders, such as information security managers. And it'll be interesting to ask this question, what do you actually think is relevant for your profession, for your role in application security for you? And so understanding the different views. And so instead to get assumptions here, we actually refer to some statistical data surveys. And one of these came from the 2011 Ponemon Institute and Security Innovation that we referred to. And was actually show, first question was, are applications secure? And again, I want to not to give bias here, just presenting you the data. Answer was, most of the developers, they think they are not secure, and information security managers are a little bit more optimistic. Second question, do you have an SSDLC, security in the software development lifecycle? 80% of developers versus 64% of IS managers say there is no build security model in the SDLC. Third question, are application compliant? So is that your web application compliant with standards and regulations? This seems to be an agreement. 15% of developers and 12%, they are basically saying that their application don't meet any security compliance standard. Has your application been breached in the past by security incident? 68% of developers say they has been breached, and 47% of IS managers there saying that their application had a security breach in the last 2 years. And the last one, did you receive application security training? And here it seems to be we have an agreement. Mostly 50% of developers and managers say that they didn't receive any security training. So it looks like we have an awareness gap here that we need to bridge. It's very important that we do that, because otherwise communication, if there is no good communication on what an application security program is within the organization, it's very, very difficult to execute your goal. So what is in the balance are software developers on one side, and interesting, so I put them on the right-hand side because I think typically software developers, at least for OWASP, have more weight. Information security managers on the other side. And so perhaps it will be interesting to see if we can bridge this awareness gap with a guide specifically targeted for information security managers. So, but what are the initial goals in order to fulfill this gap? So the first goal is increased visibility. So basically, specifically for application security manager, or what actually is important in application security, providing guidance. As I mentioned before in the study, it shows that the adoption of SSDLC is not very widespread. So the majority will say they're actually not having SSDLC implemented. So any guidance here we can provide, how initiate a program, application security program. Meeting compliance requirements, that to me was kind of shocking, to be honest, coming from financial industry sector, where compliance is basically one of the main drivers. So certainly we need to bridge that gap, because compliance can be a driver for application security, and we'll show in the guide how. Focus on risk. If you remember what I mentioned before, according to this data, the majority of the software developers, application security managers, they are not aware of incidents targeting applications, which is also shocking. So it's either a problem of awareness here or visibility of data and security incidents. So creating this awareness for information security is very important. Measuring and reporting. If you're a manager and you want to manage your organization, you have to have measurements. I'm not preaching measurements, but I'm saying if you want to provide visibility or how effective you are executing your program, metrics and measurements are actually almost like a requirement for any application security program. And at least, not the least, but the last is the rollout of a security training. And that's where we're going to have a lot of value by providing this. So how we developed this guide? So basically everything started last year, exactly in New York. I was in 2012. I was presenting at the New York chapter, the CISO guide, invited by the chapter in New York, but also in London, where I'm based, and in Atlanta. So we basically presented the idea to CISOs. Actually, we did, I believe, a JP Morgan Chase here. We did a Morgan Stanley in London. So we specifically target CISO from a perspective of, are you interested on this draft? What is your feedback? Recognizing that the feedback has to be more structured, we also initiated a CISO survey. So at stage 2, we initiated a campaign to ask CISO to participate to the survey. At stage 3, we actually collected the data and analyzed the data. So I believe Tobias did the first presentation of preliminary results at the AppSecU recently in Germany. Then at stage 4, we basically say, okay, that's what we know what the CISO think about application security according to their function. This is what we are proposing. Now let's tailor the guide to what actually the CISO survey tells us. Because we are not proposing our view, we are trying to make it easier for a CISO to do his job. right? So it's very important to do this tailoring. And so that's what we actually done in the guide. And basically, today we are with you to present the first release of the guide, the Application Security USA. Okay, at this point, I'll turn it over to Tobias to talk about the survey, and then we'll wrap up later with the conclusion. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Marco. That was quite interesting. As you said, we work actually quite close together. So both projects feed into each other, and the insights we gain from one will feed back into the other. And I hope we will have another CISO survey next year, and potentially another update on the CISO guide next year. Let me go into this. So maybe before I give you the results, two disclaimers. First, we have not finished yet. We finished the CISO guide first, so I hope we can release the CISO survey by next month. Second, the methodology. Before presenting any survey data, I should always speak about the methodology first. So we collected, and we had an online survey. We asked CISOs and information security managers, not only from the OWASP community, so we went outside of the OWASP community as well. So there is a certain selection bias, because obviously it was biased by basically who we could reach. But we tried to be as objective as possible at that point. We had over 100 CISOs submitting data. So it's not perfect, but it's a reasonably deep or broad set of data. It was quite a deep survey, so we had, I think it took roughly 25 minutes to complete all the questions. And I will not be able to present all the results because it's quite comprehensive, but I picked out some of the most interesting bits, and you will see some bits in the CISO guide, and you will see more in the survey report in a couple of weeks. So this is the sneak preview for the AppSec US. So the first thing we found, which was kind of obvious but still worth stating, external threats are on the rise. So the CISOs were very, very unanimous in this amount that when it comes to external threats like phishing, website attacks, 85% saw an increase on that. Compared to things where people worried maybe 5 years ago more, like insider, internal attacks, fraud, and all these things, most people would say this is fairly stable. So people saw a shift towards more external risks. A second part we saw is also not only the question whether it's external, internal, but also is this more infrastructure specific, or do we see actually a rise or a change in application security specific risks and threats? And here, well, maybe I have to explain this. What we basically asked is the CISO to allocate how much percentage of the threats is coming from infrastructure, how much percentage is coming from application, and how much is coming from something else, other. And we had, on average, the people would, whoops, I have to be careful here. On average, people would say about 30% came from infrastructure, about 70%, 80% would be application specific. So most of the CISOs are aware that their risks are coming actually more from application. That was kind of the snapshot. We were also interested in whether there's a trend, whether there's a change over the last 12 months, in which way is this going? And so we asked, okay, compared to 12 months ago, do you see some of these areas have changed? And people have clearly stated that application has increased. Like 2/3 have seen that the threats in application and the risks in application security have increased over the last 12 months. While for infrastructure, the majority would say it's the same or stable. There is still an increase, but it's not that dramatic. So from my take from this is so far that infrastructure security is fairly stabilizing, while application security issues, threats are clearly on the rise, especially when it comes to external threats. Well, so we asked about the threats, and one of the questions is, of course, also what specific threats or what specific concerns are you thinking about? And what's maybe interesting is when I talk with CISOs, they always complain, oh, we don't have enough budget. So in my kind of personal bias, I think, oh, budget is the most important thing. Actually, no. Interestingly, lack of budget was number 4 of their concerns. Number 1 of the concerns was actually this lack of awareness of application security issues within the organization. At least that's what the data told me. Which maybe feeds back also into what you heard from Marco, that there is this perception gap or awareness gap between developers, information security managers. Second one was insecure source code development, poor, inadequate testing methodologies. Then we have, of course, the budget question, and third-party suppliers. This morning there was a panel where people also talked about, well, we can develop very secure software, but then how about our outsourcing partners? Can we enforce that there? So that's the threats, and that's kind of what are the concerns. The next question is, okay, what do you do about it? So your investment strategy. Will you invest more, and where? And I can say for infrastructure, this seems there is a certain increase, but again, the majority seems to be, okay, this is fairly stable. We will probably stay roughly in the same investment level for infrastructure. While for application security, this is, well, significantly higher than for, more people will invest more in application security over the next months, over the next year. Let me see. So if they want to invest more, the question is where? What are their key priorities? What would you be looking for these CISOs? Where will they be making the investments? Sorry, I speak too fast for myself. The first one was clearly security awareness, which is actually a nice thing. It makes me quite happy because that gives me hope that maybe we can bridge this awareness gap that Marco showed before. Second one is security testing, which is kind of maybe not surprising. And third one is something that I like specifically, is secure development lifecycle. Because if we can improve secure development, maybe we see less application security problems further down the line. It would be nice. So these are the top 3 investment priorities for the CISOs that we asked. One thing that was a little bit, you could say maybe shocking or a little bit a wake-up call, is we also asked them whether they have a security strategy. And yes, more than half have a security strategy, but only about 27% of them believe that their current application security strategy adequately addresses new risks, like mobile devices, like social networking, cloud computing. So we found this actually, well, considering that so many people are using these technologies already, we found this fairly low. So there may be an urgent need to update security strategies. Another thing we also asked is, well, how long does your security strategy plan into the future? Is that maybe, do you plan 1 day? Do you plan a month? Do you plan 5 years? Do you plan 10 years? We found some people who actually have security strategies with a 3-month horizon, which was kind of surprising for me, because I think, well, if you spend so much effort on writing this stuff and it's only valid for 3 months, well, what do you do then? I mean, you write it again, or I mean, you're going to be pretty busy. I would say that the median, the highest, was for 1 year. The average timeline for a security strategy was 20 months. So if you average on kind of all the security strategies, you would have roughly 1.5 to 2 years. That would be the average. I marked the 2 years part. It's not the median, and it's above the average, but I found there's a certain sweet spot for this. Maybe let me ask you, why would you have a security strategy? Okay, we have some CISOs in the room. Who of you has a security strategy? Okay, some people in the back. Why do you have one? What do you do with it?
Well, the thing is that I'm not the one responsible for that in my organization. I know there's one, but I think we're in that 27%.
Why do you have it?
Because we know that security is important. We're first selling security services, so it's important for us to be secure too.
Yeah. Oh, there's someone in front. Let's mix. So what do you see is the benefit of this strategy?
Well, first of all, I'm not a CISO. I talk to my CISO almost every day. And the reason we push a strategy is they need to invest in certain technologies, they need to invest in certain tooling, and they need to do it for strategic planning. Once they know what the plan is, they need to put that in action. And 2 years I agree with the sweet spot. Sometimes the year is a little bit short for us, so 2 years seems about right.
Absolutely. It helps you make investment decisions. It helps you guide. You know, if some salesperson comes along and says, well, this product is great, maybe you don't have a budget or you don't have a plan, but if you have a 2-year plan, you know where you're going to invest. And there's something interesting we found. If you are wondering, oh, I can't get enough investment budget for application security, we found an interesting correlation between whether you get investments or whether you increase application security investments and the duration of your security strategy. So we actually we analyzed the data for different aspects, what would increase or whether there's a correlation between increase of application security investment. And we looked for whether you had a recent breach, whether you have an application security management system, whether your company size is bigger, whether you are a CISO or maybe just not just whether a normal information security manager. So far we have not found that these had a significant impact. That may be mostly due to maybe our data set is not big enough, but we didn't see a significant impact on whether you can increase your application security investment. There's a question. Did we look for acquisitions? No, we did not. We did not, no, we did not search for M&A, but we should maybe do that next year.
It would be interesting to see that as a driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing we found is there seems to be a correlation between increase of application security investment and whether you have a 2-year security strategy. So if the average population is here, so you have about 47% say we increase, about 40% have a stable, and a decrease in, that's about 15%, 14%. While if you look only at the subset of people who have a 2-year security strategy implemented, they go to up to 59% of them say they will increase the application security investment. So there's a chance that you have a better argument position. You can reason better, you can plan better, you can reserve your budget already ahead. So that gives you really an edge in getting your investments up or in making the right choices. And on the other side, I also took this out of the data set so you can see kind of what the remainder part of the population is. And there you can see, well, it's less in increase. And actually what's even the triggering point is you have also a lot of more people decreasing, actually, if you don't have a good plan. So I found this noteworthy. So one thing, if you go out and if you think about, well, I want to ramp up my application security and I don't get a budget, maybe you should think about getting an application security strategy plan with maybe 2 years time frame. Let me see the time. Yeah, okay, I think 2 more minutes. One thing I found a little bit worrying is we also asked people whether you have an application security management system or like an maturity model, benchmarking. And if you combine these three, yes implemented, yes without verification, and yes currently we are working on it, that's barely 25%. meaning 75% don't have it, which was kind of stunning to me, because if you want to write your strategy, you should know where you are so you can know where you're going. So, yeah. Fortunately, there's a glimmer of hope, because these 40% say no, but we are considering it. So maybe in 1 year's time, we can move some of these people from here to here. That would be quite nice. And maybe we can inform them about OpenSAM and other models. Concluding, two other things that we found is what were the top 5 challenges to actually delivering your application security programs. And again, here actually, again, we didn't have budget as number 1. So what kind of maybe comes to mind first? Oh, we don't have enough money? No, actually no. We don't have enough people who have the right skills, was number 1, and quite clearly. Number 2, security awareness by developers. Kind of goes hand in hand with the skilled resources to some degree. Management awareness, I mean, you hear the word awareness coming up quite often. So this plays again towards this awareness gap that we have between development and information security managers. Then we have, of course, the budget and some organizational change, which may also lead back into M&A activity potentially. And last but not least, we also asked the CISOs, hey, okay, what project did you find most useful for your organization? And I have to make a disclaimer. We did not give the CISOs a list of 140 active projects. Okay, we could have done this, but honestly, this is very hard. I mean, it's very hard if you have to go through a 140 item list. So we chose some of them that we kind of pre-selected from previous interviews. And with a far reach up was of course OWASP top 10. So this had a very majority of this is the best project for us in using in our organization. And the other 4 came pretty much even on the same level. So they are ranked, but I would say the level of significance of the ranking is not so high. So you could actually probably switch them or see them equal ranking. So cheat sheets was number 2, development guide, CISOs found useful. Secure coding practices quick reference guide. It's a very long word for a very short project, for a very short document, only 17 pages. Basically giving you secure coding guidelines. And the application security FAQ. So these were the 5 projects other CISOs found useful. And maybe if you don't use them now, maybe you take a look. I mean, it might be useful to learn from your peers. Yeah, and with this, I hand back to Marco to talk a little bit more about the CISO guide and how it can help give you guidance in the process.
Thank you, Tobias. So we are wrapping up, so the last 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes for questions, but I really like interaction, so stop me any time. So we've seen on the survey this important result. So what we have done with this data, we actually changed the formatting and organization of the CISO guide to make sure that we highlight these main points, like the top 5 projects and the main concern about security training being the top 1. So we actually refocus the CISO guide accordingly. But before we do that, before I show you how, I want to show you this little situation awareness slide here. And this is explaining you how the CISO guide was actually incepted, what actually caused me to write the first draft. And imagine you have basically a budget meeting. So we are towards the end of the year. Maybe some of you are directors here. We are asking for budget for your team for a new application security program. So, and there we go, we have the CISO that asks the business. He wants to make sure that the application are compliant with PCI. And by the way, if you're aware, OWASP Top 10 is actually part of the PCI DSS as being mandatory to test for those vulnerabilities. So it's a good reason, basically, to advocate for budget. Besides the OWASP Top 10, an application security program and SSDLC. So that's the question and proposing, asking for budget for financing is application security program. The business executive, the first question will, the first answer will be, can you determine how much you need to invest in this program? Do you have a plan, a business plan, and a business case for this? Obviously, you mentioned compliance, but what about security and engineering? What about risk management? Specifically, as the pie is one, and you have different management asking for budget for their teams, you may have, for example, an engineering manager that will ask, yes, but can we budget also for secure coding training and software tools and for developers, right? So basically, you are competing managers asking for budget, and I ask the CISO, do you have a plan also for security training and secure coding standards for developers as well? The risk manager will ask also, yes, but can you justify this budget from a risk management perspective? Is it just compliance? Well, we have been breached. Our application's been attacked. We have been compromised. So can you provide me a business case also that you're reducing risk for the corporation, specifically for high-risk applications? A security testing manager obviously gets this opportunity also for ask for his budget, for his team, to do more vulnerability assessment, for doing security testing, for training the security testers as well. So basically, this is a situation awareness that it might be important for you as a CISO, for which you are asking yourself, now how am I going to write a business plan for my business executive to justify this budget, this investment? And that's where we come in with the CISO guide. So basically, the CISO guide is structured in 4 parts. It's also structured in a way that application security is actually a journey for the CISO, not a destination. And what I mean, we start from the business case. We focus on the risk management piece because most of the CISOs today are more involved in understanding risk for their organization and translating technical risk to business risk to their business to get budget. So it's important that we structure that very, very clearly. Then the core part is application security program. So appealing to the CISO functions. So in this is actually covered in the book. If you don't have time to read the 100 pages, which obviously I will invite you, but you want to have a quick reference of what the guide is, go to page 99. And in page 99, we basically provide all the CISO functions mapped to the different sections of the guide and mapped to the OWASP projects that can help you to deliver your strategy. So that's what we're actually doing, is saying, no, this is not our view of the world. This is the CISO view. This is the role and responsibility of the security manager. And our application security can actually fit in the role and responsibility of the CISO. And our OWASP can help with projects such as CLASP, such as SAM, capability models, and so forth. So after you've done this, which basically means at part 3, you have approved the program, you've done your business case, you put it in the context of risk management, and then you are part 4, which is what? Measuring your program, your application security program, measuring your SSDLC program, and measuring your vulnerability management within the organization. Because obviously at this point you have to provide visibility that your budget has been going to something that actually works. And how you can provide visibility to senior management that your actual program works is by providing metrics, right? That shows that you reached the goal that you wanted to achieve for that year in terms of vulnerabilities you want to address, in terms of coverage of application that you want to cover as part of the SSDLC or the vulnerability assessment. So this is basically the pluribus union of elements that through this journey, we hope that the CISO will actually help himself by reading this guide to basically make a business case to the senior management. So at this point, I'm actually open to questions. I will actually leave 10 minutes because I don't want to really get you bored on the single parts of the guide. I will actually invite you to go to the system floor where we have the books for sale. And the book is like, what, $10?
Actually, it's not only on 16th floor. You can also buy it up there with your blue chips. So in case you haven't spent them on a T-shirt yet, you can get it there, or you just download it for free. So I think on the next slide we have the URL.
Right. So in the next slide, the acknowledgement. First of all, every project of OWASP is a team effort, right? So I'm the project leader, but I couldn't have done this without the help of Tobias, Eoin, Andy, misspelled here, but Stephanie, that we are here in the second row. See, all these people, and Colin, of course, all these people are actually very instrumental to get this successful project that we actually releasing today. And here are the further references as well. So you can actually download it for free on these links. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you so much. Just wanted to ask you, as far as the questions to CISOs, have you talked to them at all about the way they do security versus risk? And wondering, as far as application security in particular, do you have any sense on have they taken real inventory of their application portfolio, mapped those to sort of risk buckets, and deal with application security with a risk-based focus? I'm just wondering if you have any insight versus a fixed everything shop. I've seen shops that take application security very seriously and fix everything, but then are perceived as obstacles to the business. So I'm wondering if there's any background or color, that type of information.
Right.
Security versus risk.
You want to respond? And
Well, we did not ask specifically whether people always applied risk management techniques to make this decision. We did not ask for that, actually, but it's a very good proposal for next one. There were some colors to that. So there was some flavor whether you use risk management in general. But it didn't mean, you can use risk management. That doesn't mean you apply it to your decision making necessarily. So, yeah.
But just one remark, in the guide, we actually have that approach you're actually asking for. So basically, we talk about having an inventory of assets and dealing with application security as you're dealing with IT assets.
Yeah.
So basically, yes.
Yeah, Marco's absolutely right. The guide is advocating this strategy. Just in the survey, we didn't verify whether or see how much people would be doing that already.
So I'm currently going through a risk ranking process, and for my colleague here or anybody else, I'd be happy to share kind of what we learned from that either at one of these sessions in the future, because we have literally hundreds of apps that we develop and ship. So we're a software vendor, PTC out of Boston. That's not a pitch or anything. But we have a lot of the same problems where we're all excited about app security. I've got executive buy-in, which is excellent, right? And they're like, go, right? But I don't know what the risks are across those apps. An app that may have a bunch of vulnerabilities may not be high risk to my customers or to us as an organization. Others with less vulnerabilities, but they're hit by 10,000 users in one company a day could present a really big risk. So we're trying to go through that risk ranking process now. So there'll be some good lessons, I think, to come out of that.
Don't run away. I'm going to run later to you to exchange cards to get an interview with you as well.
I just wanted to say one follow-on. What I've seen with the risk-based approach is that you can actually use that to justify a mature application security program by saying we don't need to fix everything. Yeah. However, we need a comprehensive evaluation of what we've got in terms of our vulnerabilities so that we can say why we're not fixing this thing and do that with knowledge rather than without.
Right. Yeah, that is exactly what we are advocating in the CISO guide. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Seems so we are aligned there very well.
Other questions? Interest? Yep.
16th floor, is that where I can get the book?
Yeah.
16th floor, or actually you can just go to the merchandise here.
Yeah, that's for the merchandise.
We brought it down to make it easier, so you don't have to go the whole way up.
Yeah, you can just go around the corner. It's
Yeah. And you can use your blue chips if you want. Other questions? Good. So then,
just one thing. As the gentleman was asking you, perhaps, if I quite understand, that one of the drivers is also new technology. So that drives new investment, how you secure new technology. So we have this in the guide, actually. It's not just about fixing vulnerabilities. The risks are inherent of making changes to applications, like moving to mobile, integrating with cloud, right? So we have that covered, Web 2.0 technology, right? So that drives risk. So in the guide, we actually have a special section about how you make sure that if you have this new technology, you also have new standards within your corporation that you actually align to validate gaps and vulnerabilities. Yes. Still have 5 minutes, so.
yeah. So we're ahead of time. Thank you very much. And as you say, you can download here or buy it there. And yeah, thanks a lot for coming, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.